What's happening, people? And welcome back to another episode of Park Lane Podcast. This is episode number 19. If you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And if you're listening, on any podcast platform, don't forget to give us a follow and a 5-star review if you've enjoyed it. As always, I'm your host. My name is Luke, and I'm joined by our new co-host, Harry. Harry, how you doing, mate? You all right?
I am very well, thank you. How are you, Luke?
Yeah, no, I'm good. It's not been too much of a turbulent week for Spurs, so, you know.
No, nothing new.
Exactly. We will be joined by our other co-host, Dave, at some point during the show, so he'll drop in. But, Harry, let's start by kicking off talking about last week's match in the FA Cup third round against Portsmouth. 1-0 win. Kind of give you my thoughts quickly. I felt like it was a very scrappy, open game. I feel like Portsmouth gave themselves a good account, but really didn't test us too much. And it was good to see Antonio Conte, who's a manager who is renowned for not using young talent, to actually give a few games to some of our younger players. What do you think overall of the game?
Yeah, I think, as you said, it's good to see some of the younger players. You've got like Sarr, you've got Skip, you've got Gill. It was good to see them. I think we struggled a little bit. I think it would have been easier. It could have been a bit easier. Would have been great. But the main thing is we got the job done. We got to see Gill and Sarr look good. Bit of Kane brilliance. Won the game. So yeah, overall, glad we got the job done. But we don't make it easy for ourselves.
No, definitely. And it's really difficult, isn't it? Because I don't know if all fan bases are like this, whereby you win 1-0 in the cup, but that's not really good enough to a certain extent. Even though it really didn't test us, there were no major injuries, and we played some strong players, but also some fringe players as well.
Yeah. It's like a bit of a balance, wasn't it? As I said, it's good to see Sarr, good to see Gill. At the same time, we did have Kane and Son. I can understand that fans thought perhaps it'd be a bit easier. It's Portsmouth, mid-table in League One. I did say before, I don't think it would be easier. I don't think it would be easier. Portsmouth coming here, they've got a lot to play, got nothing to lose, have they? So they're the underdogs. They're going to go for it. But the main thing is you've got to look at is we've got the job done. We've got Preston away next. I think that'd be harder. So you've got to concentrate on that.
Yeah, definitely. And as you say, some of those younger players who are actually, moving into that kind of bracket of first team fold, as you say, Sarr
and Gill.
We've got Oliver Skip, who's, kind of was a regular, kind of dropped out again due to injury, kind of moving his way back in. I still don't think he's kind of number one in that position at the moment. But, lots of things like that. But there were also, games for the likes of Alfie Devine.
Yeah, it was good to see.
Tanganga also played. So it was nice to see those younger players kind of getting that run out, and especially the likes of Alfie Devine. It was nice because he's, people always talk a big talk about him, but he, in the nicest possible way, which I hate doing. He is every day getting on a little bit.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Good to see it would be good to see a little bit more of him.
Yeah.
I think he touched the ball once, so that was good.
Yeah, at least he touched it.
Exactly. Dave's here. Dave, are you all right? Are you with
Dave.
us? Oh, after all that, he's frozen. Right. Let's drop him out for a second.
Not coming back.
Exactly. All right. Let's see if he's coming back.
Dave,
are you here?
Yeah, I'm having major problems this morning, boys. Sorry about this.
That's all right.
It's all right, no problem. So, quick thoughts on Portsmouth last weekend?
As expected, to be honest. It was a game we were going to win. The first half, we were atrocious. Standard Tottenham, really. First half, we played like Portsmouth. Second half, we played a bit better, but wasn't that great, was it? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a fair assumption. Quick one, Dave. Do you think that, all fan bases are as critical of their team, as we are in terms of, let's look at the kind of black and white of it, whereas there's no major injuries. We're through to the next round. It was relatively straightforward, but we did kind of make it a little bit more difficult. They didn't really have that many chances. Is that just us, or is that every fan base that does that?
No, that would be everybody. You look at the Villa result, for example. They were booing their team off at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Who were the other big boys that went out?
Newcastle.
A couple, weren't
Newcastle.
So again, all their fan bases all over Twitter, obviously quite angry about the performances of their teams. So yeah, and I don't think we're the only one. I do think we have had over the years. So yeah, I got one. Can you hear me all right? Am I still breaking up?
No, you're good. You're good. Keep going. You're fine. So, Harry, I'll move kind of back on to you about this. So, really quickly, kind of round up the FA Cup. So,
yeah,
next round we really haven't got on paper a difficult tie with Preston. It gives us, these draws, as much as you kind of want to play the best teams in the competition, you also want to see, tougher opposition get knocked out. I think I read a stat where this has been the most amount of, upsets that we've seen already in an FA Cup. And it's really interesting to me because you look at Man City have now got Arsenal. You look at other teams like that where you can, as much as you want to beat all the best teams and win the FA Cup, at the same time, getting through the rounds and seeing other opposition get knocked out is actually quite beneficial to us. And do you think that's a positive to look at?
Yeah, as you said, it's obviously always interesting and good to play the big teams. Yeah, it's always big hype, interesting. But I'd definitely rather play the smaller teams and get further in the competition to build up. Like round 4 is never going to be. It's not going to be easy, with us. It's never going to be easy. Preston away. So I'm hoping that's not the upset of round 4. But I think we'll have to put out a strong team in round 4 to get through. But yeah, like you said, I'd definitely be happier playing the smaller teams until at least you get to the quarterfinals, semi-finals. I'm happy with the draw. I don't think it'd be easy. I think it'd be harder than Portsmouth.
Yeah, definitely. I think it will be as well. But, as we say, if we can avoid any Premier League opposition up until this point, I think that will be, much more beneficial. Last definitely. Kind of thoughts on it. So, the only kind of real moment of brilliance, I suppose, was Harry Kane's goal. And, we kind of need that as Spurs. We kind of need him to be able to kind of turn up and turn on, when it needs to happen. And that's what we saw. We avoided a kind of a replay or anything like that. But with Harry Kane, I've been having a lot of thoughts about this.
Okay.
I don't know how much you think about this, but what would you think to my idea of what we should do as Spurs is Harry Kane should slowly over the next season until the start of next season drop into a number 10 position instead of a 9 and play another striker beyond him, because his range of passing, his ability to be able to control the ball, open space, spread the ball out is better than probably 90% of the footballers worldwide.
100%.
What are your thoughts at that? We do have Richarlison, so we could test that out, if we needed to. Whether he becomes that player who will work like that full time, I don't know. But kind of what are your thoughts on Harry Kane dropping into that number 10 role, Harry?
I'm glad you actually brought this up, Luke, because I've been thinking and actually saying for a long time, I think that Kane should play in that number 10 role, and ideal when Richarlison's fit to play as a number 9. We've seen that Richarlison can do it for Brazil. I think Kane, I'm going to be honest, I think he's one of the best, if not the best, playmaker in the world. So I think that number 10 role will suit him, and Richarlison as the number 9, I think that will really suit him. So I think that'd be good to at least trial. I think that'd be great to see if that's possible. I just can't see Conte doing it personally.
No, definitely, because for me, it would involve us dropping to a back 4 and then having a 4-2-1-3, if that makes sense. Or 4-2-3-1, with it that way. And I don't personally see it under Conte, but Dave, I don't know if you kind of caught all that, but what are your thoughts on that as a long-term plan for Spurs and Harry Kane? Or do you think he'll always play
I think that's inevitable. I do think it's inevitable that he will drop back into that number 10 role. You can tell by his game already, kind of where it's going at the moment. So I think it's inevitable. It will happen, but like you say, Luke, I can't see it happening under Conte. I'm having major issues with my internet this morning, boys, so I'm really sorry.
No, you're fine.
I'm going to reset my router and I'll come back.
All right, no problem.
See you soon.
Yeah, sorry for those who can't visually see what's happening, because Dave is having internet problems. But we will continue. This is live, though, so for those who are watching on a replay or are listening online, this is live. So these things do happen. So me and Harry will continue. So,
always do happen, don't they?
Yeah. So, like, my thought, like, last kind of question for you, Harry, before we move on, like,
yeah.
Do you think that Antonio Conte, like, there were rumors this week that, and I don't believe everything I read on Twitter, like, we were all quite active on Twitter, that Antonio Conte will not leave Spurs until he wins a trophy? Like, do you believe that that is what will happen? And do you envisage him staying till the end of the season? Because me personally, like, I've been saying for months that I believe that Antonio Conte does not stay in the summer, and Spurs go straight back for Pochettino. Now, that's before everyone gets him back. That's not my ideal plan, but I believe, as a Spurs fan, I've been a Spurs fan for a long time, that is the vision that I see Spurs going down.
I agree with you, actually, and 2 no's, actually. I can't see Conte staying until we won a trophy. I think he'll be here for a long time. I don't think we're anywhere near at the moment, personally, in terms of being able to compete. I think he's been honest about that in the past. And also, I don't think he'll stay past the summer unless he gets back to the January window. But we're nearly already halfway through it, and we haven't, signed nobody. Again, it's frustrating. So why would he stay if he's not going to get backed? If he gets backed in January and he believes that we can win a trophy, then he might stay. But at the moment, if things stay as they are, where money's not being spent and the no recruitment, no investment, then I can't see him sign a new contract, and you can't blame him, really.
Yeah, and lastly, I'm going to put you on the spot. What are your thoughts on Pochettino coming back at Spurs in the summer?
I like the idea, but now I don't think now's the time to think about it. I'm happy with Conte. I definitely don't think he's the problem. I want to make that very, very clear. I think we obviously saw Pochettino got miracles out of those players. Conte, obviously, different type of manager. Very, very happy with Conte. So I haven't really thought about Pochettino coming back. But if I was Levy and Enoch, and you've got to back the manager, you've got a world-class manager. He's a proven winner. Why wouldn't you back him mid-season in January when you need it most? They shouldn't even be thinking about the next manager or the summer. It should be about now and investing. So I'm not going to talk too much about that. I'm going to see where we are in the summer because we should focus on Conte right now, and backing Conte should be the priority.
Okay. Last question, sorry, because
you're fine.
I like to pick your brain. I picked the boys' brain before about this. And would you rather, continue with Antonio Conte playing the style of football in which Spurs have been playing, with the chance of winning a trophy underneath Antonio Conte, and there's only a chance of that happening, or would you rather play the fluid, attacking, high-pressing football that we played under Mauricio Pochettino and still not win anything?
It's a very good question. Obviously, it's great to play fast, attacking football, exciting football like we did under Poch, but the priority's got to be winning something. It's been a long time since we won something. 2008 was actually before I was born, just to give you an idea how long it has actually been. It's been too long. So I think that's got to be the priority, and Conte's a proven winner. And he needs to be backed in January. So I would actually say stick with Conte. The football at times is frustrating, but if you back him and get the right players, we soon become exciting like we were last season. If you think like Porro and Adoki as wing backs, there's just a possibility. Then we all of a sudden become an exciting counter-attacking team, more exciting than we've been this season. So as I said, sticking with Conte has got to be the priority, and investing in January, which we haven't done yet, has got to be the priority.
Okay. That's a really good insight. Dave, I'm going to put the next question to you now you're back. So it's the same question again.
Yeah, third time.
I know what your answer is going to be. But would you rather continue with, and this is just hypothetical, so I just need an straight answer. Would you rather continue with Antonio Conte playing the style of football in which we're playing, with the possibility of potentially winning a trophy, which is still not guaranteed, or play, and it doesn't have to be Pochettino, but play the same style of football that we used to play under Pochettino and get you excited every single week to watch Tottenham Hotspur and still potentially win nothing?
Trophy. Couldn't care less about the football. Couldn't care less. I don't care if we play 10 at the back if we win something. The last time we won something, I was, what I was, 2006? You know, I was a very, very young man then. 2008, sorry. I was a very young man then. I was like 19, 20. You know, I'm in my 30s now, mid-30s. I mean, how old are you, Harry?
14. I haven't seen a trophy in my lifetime.
You've never seen a trophy in your lifetime?
No, never.
So
exactly.
For me,
well
all it comes down to is winning trophies.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you don't. The players are not going to look back in 20 years' time and say, "Oh man, we played some amazing one, Pochettino." Do you remember? It was so quick and fast, and your grandkids say, "Oh yeah, what'd you win?" Well, we didn't win anything. We played really nice football.
But there's still no guarantee that under Conte we win anything. But we still play.
But you're more likely. But you said there's no chance. You gave me two alternatives: nice football with no real chance of winning a trophy, or crap football with a chance. I'll take that 1% chance over no chance at all day long.
I agree. Yeah.
Fair enough. Probably as Frankie said in the comments, I could have answered that on Dave's behalf. Just before we move on, big shout out to Kev, who's joined us today from LFC Day Trippers. So if you are, have never heard of them before, it's not just a Liverpool channel. They do all kinds of different content over there. I've been on their channel quite a few times on the Friday night show, and they do really, really good stuff. Also, check out their page, LFC Day Trippers, because they always back the best local charities and really help local children in the area. And they do an amazing, amazing job. So big shout out to them before we move on.
Good work, boys.
So let's move on to a little bit of transfer talk. Now, I don't want to go too much into this, but I want to discuss the murmurs this week, and it is only murmurs, about Trossard from Brighton. Now, it's not a player that I would ever have imagined that we went for. It stinks of Spurs, right? And I say stinks of Spurs because his contract's due to run out and could be a little cheeky, cheap deal on the cards. And there's been a lot of talk this week from his agent about the fact that they don't want to sign a new contract at Brighton and that they want to move for him. Dave, I'll start with you first. What are your thoughts on him as a player, and where does he fit into a Spurs team?
I mean, you got to look at the wider aspect of this. Okay, so at Tottenham we have Son, Kane, Rishi, and Kulu. Right, they're our main strike. They're our main attacking forces in those positions. So we're not going to be able to go out and sign a 20-goal a season striker because they're not going to want to come and play as the fifth fiddle. Okay, so I think someone like Trossard, that deal makes sense. It kind of strikes me in the Zaha mold kind of deal. It makes sense. Like barely any time on their contract left. Won't cost us barely anything to get them in this window. And it's a player we can utilise. And it's also a player that is coming from Brighton, so understands that he's probably not going to be guaranteed to start every week unless he performs like Messi. So I think the deal makes sense, but you are right, it stinks. Absolutely stinks at Tottenham because it's a Tottenham signing. It's a Daniel Levy signing. It's a who can we get on the cheap signing? It's bargain basement hunting again. Realistically, we should be looking at Marcus Edwards and Porro in a double deal. If Porro goes to Chelsea, by the way, I'm going to let rip, I swear. But no, it makes sense for the interim for the time being. Obviously, it doesn't put any fires out in terms of Enoch. No. It doesn't make the fans turn around and go, oh, yeah, they're back at Conte. It makes the fans go, well, this is Enoch all over, isn't it? When you've got Arsenal who do have an extremely good front three, whatever you want to call them, and they're willing to go and drop 90 million on Mudryk. You've got Chelsea who are signing players left, right, and centre. They're about to start the link with Noni Madueke, obviously Tottenham's old
academy. That's what big clubs do.
30 million, exactly. Liverpool, they've got Salah. They had Salah, Darwin. Who else have they got? Diaz. Firmino, Jota, but they still went out and bought Gakpo.
Gakpo, yeah.
So that's what I mean. They still went out and bought Gakpo. So Tottenham are behaving like Tottenham. I think the deal does make sense. Does it get me excited? Not really. It's a Louis Zaha signing in my eyes.
Yeah, I get that. Fair enough. Kev's dropped in saying Brighton have the option to extend, according to a Brighton fan he had in the show last night. That might be why he's trying to force an exit. Like, that's 100% why he's trying to force an exit, because they do have an option to extend for a further year. And, I think his agent's taking things into his own hands. But, for me as a Spurs fan, and I also think for Spurs at that level as well, that's not the kind of thing they also want to see, Harry. Agents trying to force moves for players looking like they don't want to play for clubs. Like, it's an interesting one. I've seen a few, Tottenham fans who are big on social media saying that it would be a good signing for Spurs, but I don't expect you to go into like tactical analysis and all those kind of things. But like, what are your thoughts on Trossard at Spurs?
I like him, and I think it'd be a good signing, but I have to agree with Dave. It's so Tottenham-like. His contract's running out. It's going to be on a cheap. We hardly show any ambition in transfer window. We know that by now, so we're just going to get Trossard because his contract's running out. I think he's a fantastic player, but you've got the likes of Son and Kane. There's other positions where it should be our priority. For example, defence. That should be where we should be investing in. If Porro goes to Chelsea, and then it's ridiculous that we missed out on because we won't pay the release clause, which is only 39 million. And for a club of our size, it's a fairly simple deal as well. So I'd be happy with signing Trossard. I like him, but there's other areas that should be our priority. But I'll take him, but Levy and Enoch need to do more to get me back on side than just signing someone whose contract's running out on the cheap.
Luke, you muted.
When you jumped in saying, signing proven players against a Tottenham mould and could be what we need to do. Conte likes players to make an instant impact. And whilst I agree on that, do I see Trossard coming into Spurs and making an instant impact? I don't know. I don't see him.
He strengthens our bench. That's about it.
Yeah, definitely.
But we need to strengthen our starting 11.
Yeah, exactly. And someone has said, where's Wynnie gone? Jake, he should be back next week. Turns out him and his wife don't communicate. So, anyway, let's move on because I really want to quickly talk about Porro because I wasn't on last week as I was working, but you guys did talk about it. And I want to kind of give my 2 cents on this whole Porro thing. It's two-parter, really. First part, and I will be completely honest with you, bar the 2 games that I have watched him playing, I've never, ever seen this player play in my entire life, right? So this is where I kind of sit on the deal. I think that it would be a good deal. And I think that from what I've seen for, a player £39 million, it could be a release clause. It could be an easy deal to get through. The reason why I never see this deal happening, this transfer window at least, is due to the other options that we have at the club and the fact that nobody is coming in to buy either Matt Doherty or Emerson Royale. I think with the likes of Emerson Royale and Matt Doherty and Jed Spence, there's no way in hell Spurs sign a 4th right wing back to come and just eat up those wages. I think unless you see somebody come in and the most likely is Emerson Royale, Spurs will never ever do it. If a bid comes in for Royale and he's in contract talks, goes for medical, all the rest of it, I see Spurs instantly going for Porro. But I don't see that happening until anything like that happens. Like, Dave, what's your thoughts quickly on that?
I'm not surprised no one's trying to buy them because, let's be honest, they're both total shit. Nobody's going to want to buy them because it's going to cost them a fair chunk of money to get the players out of Tottenham. So, I know there was links with Emerson and wanting, Inter looking at Emerson Royale and then us doing a deal for them for Bastoni and, or De Vrij or whatever. But I don't think that should come into it. At the end of the day, if you're a Tottenham fan and if you're a Tottenham owner who calls yourself a Tottenham fan, right, you don't care about who you've got. You look at the team and you go, okay, this is where we need to improve. We're falling off the trails of top four. We're slipping behind the likes of United, Newcastle, miles behind Arsenal
Gap's getting bigger
this season. The gap's getting bigger. You need to look at it and go, okay, as a squad, yes, we do have these extra players, but I can understand why we need to sign new blood. So Pedro Porro, obviously, if you don't know much about him, he's actually from City originally. He moved to Sporting from City. He's exactly what we need. He's an attacking right wing back, can defend, he can cross a ball. We haven't had someone that can cross a ball since Kieran Trippier. So for me, you need to look at it at a bigger picture. And yes, I do agree with the fact that we do have a lot of right backs at our club, but they're all trash, barring Jed Spence, who's young. So you need to improve what needs to be improved. At the end of the day, if Daniel Levy wants Tottenham to make top four, he's got to put his money where his mouth is. If he wants to quieten down the Tottenham Beanie Out boys, he needs to back Conte, back the club, and get in the signings we want. So that's my 2 pence. It's
agree.
I
think it's a good signing, personally.
Yeah, before I move on to you, Harry, Kev said, did you watch Alex Moreno last night for Villa? 13.4 million. Porro is good, but he's not worth 40 million. Villa showed there is value in the market. Do you know what I think about Villa really quickly? Is Villa do their transfer business like proper well, right?
Better than us.
Never leaked. It's never out there in the media. It's never, there's this player's rumoured to be with this team and so on. It's very simple, and we'll get the deal done. We'll get it done under the radar and we move on. Let's look at Luis Diaz with Spurs. I don't believe that was ever going to happen. But I believe that any talk of it in the media made Liverpool act on that. And it's just very interesting the way that other clubs go about their business. But quickly, Harry, I know you talked about it last week, but thoughts on Porro, thoughts about the fact that Spurs won't sign him because we've already got 3 right backs?
I really like him. Again, I think it's ridiculous that not playing the release clause. Yes, we've got 3 right wing backs at the club, but 2 of them, absolutely useless. I don't want anywhere near the team. But if you get a bid for either Emerson or Doherty, regardless of the price, you should take it because you're getting rid of them. Someone's paying a little bit for them because I think they're both as bad as each other. Jed Spence hasn't been given much of an opportunity. That's probably the only thing I disagree with Conte about. I think it'd be good to see him get some minutes, but I think you've got to look at that position and go, that's probably one of our weakest positions in that whole team, if not the weakest. And it's something that you look down the other side and you've got Perisic and you've got Udogie next season, and you think that side's all right, that side should be all right, especially for the long term. But when you've got the right-hand side and you think you've got Emerson, Doherty and Spence, who hasn't been given a chance, it's not good enough. And we just need to pay that release clause. And I think I'd be interested. I definitely would do that if I was leaving in.
I read somewhere that the reason we're haggling over the Porro release clause is with release clauses you have to pay the whole lot up front. 90% of transfer football, O'Keefe say this, is that most transfers are done on the drip. So they're done on the drip fed. Whereas if you pay a release clause, you have to pay it all up front. So I think what we're probably looking to negotiate installments as opposed to all at once.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And if you look at any of Spurs' transfer business over the last few years, especially, that is the way that it's been done. Look at Romero deal. Look at, the main one is Kulusevski. That saved us a lot of money in the summer. Not that we spent a lot of it, but it saved us a lot of money in terms of not having to, because he was on an 18-month loan deal. So we've got until next summer to buy it. And then there's obligations to buy based on games, Champions League, and so on. So it actually makes it a lot more financial sense. And I do get it, as somebody who has, been self-employed and has kind of worked out ways to kind of make money last a little bit longer and things like that. It does make sense because, there's no way I'm spending the cash in the bank when I can do that deal, that buy that product or whatever it is over 3 months rather than buying it up front, as long as the price doesn't escalate. So that is a really important factor to it. And I think that there's no way Spurs play £39 million up front. No chance in hell.
34. Actually, more like 36. But you are right.
Whatever the money is, right? What's 3 million, 4 million between friends, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Daniel, and with Daniel Levy, you never, he's never going to pay up front for anything. He's just not that type of guy. He wants things on the drip. He wants things to be in installments, which is part of the problem. Let's be honest. I mean,
He likes add-ons as well.
He buys his coffee from Starbucks over a week, doesn't he?
Of course he does. You look at Todd Bowley. Since he's come into Chelsea, he spent nearly 400 million. Obviously, I know they're doing absolute shite, but he's still backed them completely. So
yeah, he has.
Interesting.
Yeah, interesting. Harry, quick thoughts on that installments and paying money up front. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I understand your point, but I think that's the excuse. But any big club that look at Porro and what you should do is you look. Chelsea want him. Obviously, Chelsea spend a lot of money. He's obviously going to be an important player. Saw him in 2 games. Watched him a couple of other times. I like what I see. And yes, perhaps it's a lot, but when you're a big club outside the top 4 and you want to get in top 4, sometimes you have to take those risks. And yes, Kulusevski and Bentancur were good signings, but we struck gold. Lots of people questioned it at the time. So I would say they got a bit lucky with that. And that was because, Paratici being at Juventus, he knew them well. But I think we struck gold with Kulusevski and Bentancur. But sometimes you've got to show a bit of ambition. We're the outsiders, I think, personally, to get top 4. I can't see it happening. So paying the release clause to Porro is trying something. You leaving in, you can go, look, we tried. We were ambitious, because at the moment they're not. And that is the problem with this club.
Yeah, no, I understand. Last thing I just wanted to mention, because, this is the North London derby this weekend, is that Mudryk deal. I read this week that the way the deal makes a hell of a lot of sense to Arsenal. Now, again, it's not a player I've ever seen play, is that his wages are under 40 grand a week, which means that they can spend more on the transfer fee because his wages are so low. So there are all interesting factors about all different deals. Last thing from Wynnie on this. Wynnie has said that Daniel Levy is our Sporting Lisbon chairman if Tottenham can pay the purchase of Porro on Klarna. So anyway,
clear
bit of a joke from him. Yeah, exactly. Right, so let's move on to, and I will stress again, this is just rumours at the moment, but there, the rumour mill is ticking, Dave, about the potential Qatari investment in a Premier League club, which has been discussed. They had meetings with Daniel Levy regarding potential investment. It wouldn't be a takeover because, as laws apply, they can't own PSG and own Spurs or any Premier League club for that matter at the same time. So they would have to sell PSG before they could do that, but they could invest like they have done in such clubs as Braga. It would mean a financial boost to Spurs potentially. How much that would be, again, we wouldn't know. But I want to know, you're very outspoken. I think I'm also very outspoken. We have differing opinions. Oh my God, I can't even talk today. Different opinions on the matter. We'll get to my opinion. And I will let you all know, my opinion isn't 100% negative the more I have looked into it, but I'll explain more why. Are you still 100% positive on this, Dave?
Yes. I don't see investment in our club as a negative, as a bad thing. The Saudis and everybody else and the sheikhs are taking over football in that respect. You look at Newcastle, talk of them even buying the WWE. That would look great. Rey Mysterio line up for Newcastle. But no, it's you're looking at falling so far behind other clubs if you don't get the right investment.
Yeah.
Now, people can say what they want about human rights, and they can say what they want about how the way they act and everything else. But what we've always been taught in life and in football, and the World Cup showed it, is you separate football from politics. Yeah. So if you have a political landscape that you're not happy with, you deal with that separately, because football's football.
Don't bring it into football.
I want to be able to compete with City, Newcastle, United, Liverpool, Chelsea, even them lot, down the road. I want to be able to compete with them, and I want to be able to win trophies, because I'll tell you what, I'm like I said to you, I'm 36 years old this year, and I'm absolutely pig sick of not winning anything and that label being thrown at us as Tottenham fans. It's horrible. It's horrible, you know. So for me, investment, yes, I'd take it, and I would take anything to get Joe Lewis and Daniel Levy out of this club. Anything. If I automatically became a billionaire overnight, I'd buy Tottenham myself just to sell us to a sheikh. You know, so that's the way I view it. I want success. I want trophies. Whatever I have to do to get that, I'll get it. Because the way our club is run at the moment, we don't look like winning anything anytime soon. You know, and that is such a shame from where we've been and where we've came from. And the reason we don't look like winning anything anytime soon is because we have owners that don't back their managers, that don't put their money where their mouth is, that are more interested in building a property portfolio than a team with, you know, being children. And that's just the way it is. So if QSI came along and they did buy 30% of Tottenham for £1 billion or whatever it is, you know, and they're willing to invest 500 million in the squad, great. You crack on and do that. You know, I understand your points, Luke, and we spoke about this privately. You know, and I do understand where you're coming from. But if they own a minority stake in our club, you know, 30% isn't that much, and they bring us success, I'm all for it personally.
Of course, sir.
No, and I appreciate. Sorry, Harry, I'll come to you in a minute. I appreciate, you know, your points, Dave, on this, and you know, I'll why I want to come before you, Harry, is I want to kind of express my thoughts and then kind of see, you know, where you sit. Now, whilst I completely wholeheartedly agree with you, Dave, you know, that success is important for my football club. You know, success is important to me, and I'm not happy with mediocrity, right? The one thing I will not do is compromise success for a football club in which, in reality, I have zero ability to change, realistically. I have zero ability to affect anything that goes on the pitch, in reality. I will never move my morals or remove my morals for success and silverware for a football club. Now, having said that, you know, and that's a broad statement completely, you know. For example, if the Public Investment Fund, you know, the Saudi owners for Newcastle, or you know, the Abu Dhabi sheikhs, you know, want to come and purchase Tottenham, that would be something, you know, I would be completely against. Now, I've lived in Dubai for 4 years. I was there, so I understand, you know, a lot of the issues that go on. You know, I'm not perfect, right? I lived in these countries. I spent lots of money in good places. I went to nice hotels, nice restaurants, all in which were built by people, you know, who have struggled, who get paid no money, who have poor living and working conditions, right? So I'm not perfect in this. But my moral compass at this moment in time is that I wouldn't trade my morals for any silverware or trophies. Now, having said that, I have been looking into QSI this week. And I think his name is, excuse me if I ruin this, but Nasser Al-Khalifi, something
Correct.
Something like that. And I have been looking into this. And from what I can see at this moment in time, he has no links to to Qatari sheikhs or the Qatari rulers, for those that don't know. You know, from what I've read, he was came from a humble background, fishing family, you know, things like that. Those things don't bother me, right? So I want to make this clear, right? I'm not against any Middle Eastern country, any background, anything like that, right? As I've said before. But I am against, you know, rulers and owners of these countries who, you know, deliberately exploit people for their own wealth. That is the thing that I'm against and I would be against. So if this went a little bit further and we were taken over or bought out by someone like that, as long as I can, you know, justify that morally to myself. And, you know, as I've said, as we've talked, Dave, not all billionaires are corrupt in some way, right? They have all exploited their way to the top, and I appreciate that. But my morals stand on it really boils down to this Saudi takeover. Saudi Arabia for the last 2 or 3 years have been actively pushing tourism in the country for non-Muslims, and before that, it was very difficult for non-Muslims to go into Saudi Arabia without a visa. And they have been trying to change the way that they do things in the public eye, but yet deep down, their country is still riddled with issues. Whether that's to women, whether that's to gay people, or whether that's to just human rights in general. And so that's kind of like my very broad angle on it. Like, I have thought a little bit about the conversation we had this week, Dave, and I am slowly changing ever so slightly, but it has to be the right person. Like, I do not want my football club run by somebody, who
you basically mean sport washing, don't you? We know the Saudis are sport washing. That's fact. And the PIF actually tried to buy Tottenham. I don't know if you know this. There was talks about them buying Tottenham, but they didn't want to pay 4 billion. They'd rather go and buy Newcastle for 500 million and build from scratch. So I understand. I do understand your point, and I do agree. Human rights is a factor in everything, but unfortunately, we're right in what we say. No billionaire has got to the top without exploiting somebody. Nobody that owns a football club. I mean, look at the stuff Joe Lewis has done in Argentina, for example.
Yeah.
No billionaire has done everything the right way to become a billionaire. You don't become a billionaire without exploiting a group of people or offending a group of people. So, whilst I do understand, I just think it doesn't matter who we had in charge. Morally, we'd have to sidestep a little bit because they've all done things that they shouldn't have done. They've all done things that most people wouldn't do because that's why they're billionaires. Abramovich, for example, is a prime example of that. You look at anybody that owns a football team, there is some shadiness and some exploitation there along the way. Now, Al Khalifi, and I've done the same research as you. He doesn't seem to be that bad of a guy. Of course, he probably has exploited someone along the way because, like I said, you don't become a billionaire overnight by not. So, yes, I do agree with you. Do I still want the investment? Yes. Morally, will it affect me too much? I mean, I don't want to have an owner of a club that I look at and go, Jesus Christ, look at the atrocities they've committed.
Yeah.
But I'll happily look at an owner and say, they've done what every other billionaire has done. They've exploited people to get to the top. What can I say about that? Nothing. Now put your money where your mouth is. So that's kind of where I draw the line, if that makes sense. If it's like human atrocities and things that I don't agree with, then yeah, I'm against it. But if it's just a billionaire being a billionaire, then I want that investment.
Yeah, no, I get that. Harry, you're a young man, and I don't know what it's like to be a 14-year-old in the modern age, but you're very well spoken and have a lot of thoughts on these things. So, what are your thoughts? Kind of listening to all of that, because I'm really interested to know.
Yeah, it's an interesting debate. I actually respect both of your points. And you, Luke, I understand a lot about the human rights issue. I actually have a different opinion to what most of the younger generation do. And I would support Qatari sports investment having a share in the club. I think I put football and politics to the side. And as Dave pointed out, and you agreed with, Luke, all billionaires have their way. None of them are innocent. Joe Lewis, Roman Abramovich are perfect examples of that. So I would put them two to a side. I'd never say no to success, because I think it'll bring money and success. And whatever way you look at it, football has ruined football, whether it's in a good thing or a bad thing. Football has, money's taken over. Football, look at Newcastle, look at City. Arsenal's stadium is sponsored by Dubai. So it's nothing different or new that we're doing. Every other club is doing it. And I think you just got to accept that human rights issues is obviously a problem. I obviously obvious reasons don't support that, but I put football and politics to the side and I look at how long it's been since we've won a trophy and the opportunity for money and success that some other clubs like Newcastle, City, Arsenal, their stadium are doing. And I think this is our opportunity and we must take it, personally.
No, fair enough. And as I said, we'll kind of move on from that. I don't want this to run into a political show or an agenda or anything like that. If anybody else has any comments, stick them in the comment section, and we'll happily
let us know.
Discuss that. Big shout out if he's still watching. Good friend of mine, Sam. who's an Arsenal fan, annoyingly. Kind of good segue to jump in to the chat of this week because, I've brought it up twice, is the North London derby. Now, before we move on to this, right, I've been thinking about a question for you boys all week.
Okay.
And here's my thoughts, right? I wanna talk to you first, Harry.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on Arsenal, right? Not how they play, anything like that. What are your thoughts on Arsenal? Do you despise Arsenal? Do you watch their results every week and think, oh, for God's sake, they've won again? Or, thank the Lord that they've lost. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Because I find this really interesting.
Okay, I obviously despise them, which I hope every other Spurs fan does. But I'm not afraid to watch. I will watch them. I never want them to win. I don't like them, but I know some Spurs fans. I understand that. Completely understand that. Don't have a problem with that. Can't stand watching Arsenal. I understand that, and I don't like watching them, especially when they win. But every game that Arsenal are on, I obviously, like any other team, I will watch. Huge fan of football. I would obviously watch. I would say I despise them, but not to the point that I would wish any harm on any players or fans, or not watch Arsenal, nothing like that. But obviously, I do despise them. It's horrible to see them playing great football at the moment.
Yeah, Dave, what are your thoughts on that?
I can't stand them. I've made this point clear many times. Half my family are Chelsea and Arsenal fans. I'm pretty much the only Tottenham fan. So I've lived with the abuse and the taunts and whatever for my whole life. Do I keep an eye on their results? Not a chance. I couldn't care less where they are in the league. I care where we are in the league. It bugs the shit out of me that they're top because I get messages from my family, saying, oh, look, we're top, blah, 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 blah. But I'm just going to say one thing and one thing only. And this is the only time I'll speak on Arsenal because it makes me feel a bit sick talking about it, to be honest. Last season, the wheels fell off dramatically towards the end of the season. While I think they've got a little bit more. While I feel like they've got a little bit more backbone this season, I do think they're a better team overall. I still think they are vulnerable. They still look defensively vulnerable. In games they have played, they still look, take the Brighton game, for example. That's a prime example. If that third Brighton goal counts, and it's 4-3 or whatever, the Matomo goal, then they probably draw or lose that game, in my opinion. People can say they haven't played, they've played everybody or whatever else, but they've not, like the top four as it stands right now, Arsenal have not beaten anybody in the top four as it stands right now. That's fact. They're not beating Newcastle. They've not beaten City. Who else in the top
Newcastle,
four?
Drew.
Yeah. So it's like, it's
United, they lost.
It is. And United, they lost to. So I do think they are a stronger outfit. Do I think they'll win the league? Not at all. I think they'll finish second. I do think they'll finish above us this season.
Yeah.
But that's all I've got to say on it, really. They are what they are.
The only reason I asked that question is because I've been thinking about this ever since kind of like the start of this season. I used to previously watch all Arsenal games, hope that they lost, only under that thing, get annoyed if they won, annoyed if they were, ahead of us. It would really kind of grate me and kind of take over my life. And I feel like a lot of fans are like that. And, I was reading a lot of stuff this week about, some Arsenal fans saying the way that Spurs act when they come to our ground compared to how they act when we go to their ground, and the abuse and different things like that different people get. And it really kind of bothered me that people get that invested in a game of football. Of course I want us to win. Of course this game means a lot, and of course I get nervous about the North London derby. But at the end of the day, right, we're all human and we all like football, right? So if we're going to a football game and your sole angle of that is to cause any kind of trouble or say, awful and atrocious things about, the opposition team, I think you really need to have a good, hard look at yourself. So I did want to say, actually, that, I hope we have a good game this weekend, and I hope that all fans, respect it as a spectacle in itself. And I hope that you sing as loud as you can for the team that you support. But I hope that it stops at that, and I hope that that's all that happens.
Yeah, like I said, it's difficult for me because, like I said to you, a lot of Arsenal fans in my family, I kind of broke the mold a little bit by being a Tottenham fan because my dad's a Chelsea fan, my brothers are Chelsea fans, my uncles are Arsenal fans, and it's like imagine growing up with that and then being a Tottenham fan. It's like, what the hell? So, Sam, thank you for still watching, Sam. Obviously, Sam makes a point about Arsenal fans' history of falling apart haunts them. And it is right. I mean, last season, what was it? 4 points clear with 3 games to go. They were of us. They should have tied up top 4. And while I do think they have improved a lot more than us this season, I do think they are a much better side than us this season. It's still Arsenal. Do they still have that apple crumble inside them? Are they still going to, when they come up? I mean, the next 5 games of them are massive. I think they've got us, City, United, with Everton and Fulham thrown in the mix. So it's going to be these next 5 games will tell us where Arsenal are going to finish. If they come out of this maximum points, they'll win the league. And believe me, I don't want them to win the league at all. No Spurs fan does, because I'll be leaving every group chat I'm in if that's the case.
Yeah, Harry. So, Dave made a good point about the kind of wheels falling off Arsenal last season. And I don't want this to be about Arsenal. I don't want this whole thing, we've got kind of 10 minutes to talk about the North and the Derby. I don't want all this to be about Arsenal, but they came to our ground. And I feel like, again, I made this point a while ago, maybe I would say 1 season ago when we spoke about this. And I felt like the only negative that I could find at that time, maybe not the only, one of the negatives I could find about the difference between Antonio Conte and Mikel Arteta is the fact that Antonio Conte has been through these games a lot before. Antonio Conte is, and I would say, will be, more experience. And I feel like the naivety of Arsenal could be their downfall in this game. And it was the game to us at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium that affected that last season. And so what are your thoughts leading up to the game? Do you have any hope as a Spurs fan, or any kind of belief that we can turn up and win this game tomorrow?
I have a little bit more after that Palace win, and seeing Arsenal failing to break down Newcastle. Don't get me wrong, I think Arsenal are a lot better this season. And I definitely think they're going to finish above us. We're nowhere near it, and Arsenal have been great. But however, I'm going to get criticised for this, but I do think they've had it easy. I've never seen City drop as many points as they have. I think they've they've had it easier personally. I have a little bit of hope, as I said, after that Palace game. Always a little bit of hope. But remember, we battled them last season and sent them back to Woolwich. So, and at the same time, I think Conte has that, as you say, more experience. And I'd have Conte over Arteta any day. I think he's a world-class manager. I think Arsenal are struck lucky at the moment, but I think it will fall apart. Having said that, they are a lot better. But, they have had it easier personally for me. I think it's time to see them crumble.
Looking at that is a really interesting point that you mentioned about the status and the kind of ability of some teams this season. Let's look at City's failings. Let's look at
Chelsea, Liverpool,
Man United, Spurs. Every team. It feels like
even West Ham though,
all over again, where Leicester won the league, where everybody else was, excuse my language, dog shit.
Yeah,
and they ended up just winning the league because Spurs are shit.
Arsenal had it easy.
We were never in that race, mate. I don't believe that 2 or 3. I don't believe that nonsense. Arsenal were top of Christmas the time Leicester won the league. Spurs were never top that season. We were never once top. Arsenal were top of Christmas.
Yeah.
So coming third in a 2 horse race or whatever is an absolute load of nonsense, because, like I said, we were never top. Do you want to pull up Winnie's comment, Luke? I want to touch on this quickly. Do I want, if Arsenal to win the league and Spurs finish 4th, or Arsenal come 2nd and Spurs finish 5th? I want to come 5th.
Yeah, no, I'd say the same.
That's it. I'd finish 5th. I don't want to see them win the league. How hard that would be for me as a Tottenham fan with all my family. No chance. So, like I said, Arsenal are stronger this season. There is no doubt. Arteta he's done things the right way and he's been backed fully. So I do think they are stronger. But yes, I do think they will. Like I said, they've not beaten any team in the top 4 right now. They lost to United. They got to play City twice. They got to play Newcastle again. They've not beaten a team in the top 4 at this moment. Chelsea are 10th. Liverpool 7th. We're not much better. We're 5th. So you are right in that every other team is having a pretty crap season, and they've had a bit of fortune in the fact that everyone else is completely trash, and they're not, and they're playing well. Can they keep it up? I'm not convinced because, like I said
No.
to you, defensively they are vulnerable, in my opinion. They still look weak defensively. They still look like they'll concede goals. So, am I confident for tomorrow? Not really. Do I think we'll win? Probably not. But do I think Arsenal will win the league? No, I don't.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, fair enough. Harry, what are your thoughts on the comments in the press conference this week from Antonio Conte that Dejan Kulusevski is back? He's been training. He looks the sharpest out of Bentancur, Richarlison, and himself. And it looks like he will start. For me, it is a massive, massive boost on that side because I've been banging in the praises for Kulusevski this season. And I've been suggesting that his ability is not only his ability as a wide player. He hasn't got tons and tons of pace, but what he has, which he can join together, unlike a lot of players, is he has strength and some pace, which, if we look at let's compare the likes of Saka and Kulusevski quickly, right? I don't believe there's much difference in pace, right, between the two. And I might be trying to be proven wrong. I don't believe there's that much difference in pace. But the biggest difference with Kulusevski is his ability on the ball and his strength that he can offer. When he cuts inside or chops back onto his left foot, he has various options which will keep defenders guessing. What are your thoughts on all of that?
I think that'd be obviously great if he can make it. Obviously, Conte said that, but what you have got to bear in mind is there's always going to be that mind games when it comes to derbies between Arteta and Conte. He's fit, he's not fit. But I hope fingers crossed, he does play and is okay because obviously he's a key player for us. He's great, fantastic to watch. Obviously, I've seen the Saka and Kulusevski debate, and I have said I think they're both very, very top players, very good players. But Kulusevski, he's just has something special for me, something different. And we've seen against Villa, we missed him and we missed Bentancur. So we definitely miss Kulusevski, and it'd be great to have him. But I'd also like to, if you don't mind, go back on Arsenal quickly and just say that that's what happens when you back a manager. Stay with him, don't sack him, and you back him. And Levy and Enoch have got to look at Arsenal at the moment, and it's working for them because they stuck with their manager, which we should have done with Pochettino, perhaps could have done with Maria, and definitely should do now with Conte, and back him because they're going to be ambitious as well in January. Just you wait. So that's what happens when you back a manager, and that's why they're in a better position than us at the moment. And you've only got Levy and explain for that.
Can I just pull something up? Johnny D, I know you're an Arsenal fan, but thank you very much for tuning in. He makes a good point here. Arsenal have got youngsters who will only grow better. All Arsenal have to do is keep them. I've just got to point something out.
What's happened to our
having a really young squad doesn't guarantee you trophies. Tottenham had the youngest squad in the league and probably one of the best squads in the league for a few years. And we came close. We never really got over that hill. I think, in my opinion, if Arsenal do want to develop into that top team, they need to add what Tottenham didn't have, which is them proven winners. Them people are in the squad that are used to winning trophies, that can get you over the line in those difficult games. And then, maybe we'll have that conversation about whether they'll crumble or not, But the way I look at it now is, unfortunately, you can't predict youth. You can't predict how youth is going to do. They may get you very close. They might get you very close. But if you really want to take that next step, you've got to do what things haven't done. And you need to sprinkle that bit of experience in there. But that's all I want to say on Arsenal. So that's it.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Big shout out to Holly Agambar in the comments. If you don't know who she is, big Tottenham fan. And I regularly go on her show. So, go over and once you've subscribed to our channel, don't forget to go and share love on her channel as well. But we're kind of closing in now, boys, on the end of the show. So going to kind of do what we usually do. Harry, kind of maybe new to this, but, there will be a score prediction. So I'll come to you last. I see there's quite a few people watching. So what I want, whether you support Arsenal, whether you support Spurs, whether you support Liverpool, whoever you support, I want you to get your score predictions in. We'll read as many out as we can. And let's see what everybody thinks in terms of scoreline tomorrow. For me personally, I feel like I felt for the last kind of 3 or 4 years, I feel like I've felt that Spurs can win any game they play against Arsenal. Even when we play at the Emirates, I still have belief that we can win. It's the only season in a while now that I'm unsure if we can actually win this game. But I will 100% take a draw tomorrow.
Yeah.
So we'll start off with Frankie. So, or as people know on our show, Wynnie. So, Winnie's gone for a Desmond 2-2 draw. Take that, Dave. Will you take that hands down right now?
That's what I think it is. I'm exactly the same, mate. I think it's going to be 2-2. And I'll give you my reasons why. I think the way Tottenham start in the first half is hopeless. We all know that. I think Arsenal going 2-0 up at half time. And then I think we'll have a fight back in the second half, and Arsenal will panic like they did against Brighton. But our 2 goals will count, and it'll end 2-2.
Ooh, interesting. Holly has come in and said that she's nervous. Arsenal look incredible, which is very annoying. But the 12th man will do the business. 2-1 Spurs. Let's have it. Harry, are you as confident as Holly?
No, but I can't see us beating Arsenal. I think this is the one season where you've got to accept Arsenal are in a lot better position than us. I don't think we're in a great place at the club at the moment, on and off the pitch. And I think a point, it really wouldn't be at the end of the world. Or if you look at that league table and look at the problems we have at the club right now, a point definitely wouldn't be at the end of the world. It's definitely not an embarrassment. I think we've got to accept that. I'm going 1-1. And I think we can't play like we do in the first half, like we have against small oppositions, because sometimes we've got away with it and sometimes we haven't. And we've seen like against City, against Liverpool, where we didn't get away with it. Starting point in the first half, we couldn't quite come back. And same with Newcastle. So you can't do what we do in the first half. Like Dave said, it'd be great to come back 2-0 down to get 2-2 draw. Yeah, it would be fantastic. But if against Arsenal, it's going to be difficult to see. But I am going 1-1, but we need to be better in that first half for that to even happen.
Perfect. Couple of quick questions. Johnny, I'll finally read your comment out. They're a bit mismatched. But anyway, I'll try my best. This is the 6th toughest fixture for Arsenal after City home and away, Liverpool home and away, and United away. I think that Arsenal win, but Spurs are the only team in the Premier League never disadvantaged by referees.
Oh, come on. Really?
Oh, man. He's obviously never seen Sissoko's handball in a Champions League final, or Lucas Moura.
Yeah, I'll still remember the Lucas Moura moment when he got
handball when it hit his back,
and then someone booted the ball at him.
Or the worst offside decision when Jan was in his own half, or so. Yeah, we all have up and downs with referees. That's just the way it is.
Refereeing just isn't good enough in general in England, and that comes to the VAR as well. The people who use
you know what? I've said this many times, and maybe this is a topic for another day. Why don't the Premier League just employ the best referees from around the world?
I think in Qatar it was. I think that it was really good. It was good to see like time being added on at the end of the game for time wasting. Here you get away with time wasting. Although I'm glad it happened. Like for example, Newcastle at the Emirates, I read that the ball was in play for 43 minutes. They're allowed to get away with that. Obviously, I'm happy with that. You've got teams like, I know they're not in the Premier League anymore, but like the Burnleys, that it will really benefit because they can get away with it. I thought the refereeing at the World Cup was fantastic, and that's something that we're not good. It's not at the standards here in England. God knows why.
And then this is the best thing to comment on this whole thing that Holly said is refs are eggs. Conversation closed. Shout out to Johnny. Appreciate you coming in. I do take the piss sometimes, but
we really appreciate joining in. Yeah, definitely. It's good to see Arsenal fans commenting. Even if it's a Tottenham show, we do welcome everybody. So thank you very much, Luke. What's your prediction, mate?
Do you know what?
I know you're normally outlandish. You're normally outlandish and normally, 4-0 Spurs or something like that. But I want to hear it this week.
Yeah, do you know what? Harry doesn't know me too well yet, but he will soon. People don't call me this, but they should start knowing me. Probably the most optimistic Spurs fan going. I forget about last week, or if we've had a bad result, I forget about it and I move on. My prediction for tomorrow is Arsenal 1, Spurs 3.
Wow.
I think that, I think that the 2 players, Son and Kane, are notorious, and I know Arsenal fans, and I know that they fear when both of those players are playing against Arsenal, because no matter what, they do turn up. And, I want to see, even if I see a 50% Son compared to, what he's like at the moment, 50% better, I still think that he runs right against Arsenal. So I'm really interested, to see what happens. It's going to be an interesting game. My new boss in my company is an Arsenal fan, the area director. So, I said to him, if we lose, do not talk to me on Monday morning. And if we win, I tell you what, he's getting it in the fucking neck. But anyway, let's kind of move on from that. And I want to thank you all very, very much for tuning in. Love to see all your comments. Love to see everyone interacting with us on social media. We really, really appreciate every single person that tunes in every week. So I want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for that. I want to wish everybody well at the game tomorrow. And, I want to hope that whichever side wins, everyone has a good time. So we'll go around the tables, but, don't forget to like this channel. Don't forget to subscribe. Go follow Harry on all his social media as well, because for, without bringing your age into it, for such a young kid, like the presence of mind that you have and the footballing knowledge that you have is second to none. So we really, really appreciate you being on the channel. But we'll go around the houses and we'll start with Dave. So Dave, how can people find you?
Everyone knows me by now, mate. I'm here, Park Lane Pod Dave. You can normally see me ranting. I'm quite an opinionated fan, so I'll quite happily get into a discussion with anybody if you fancy the challenge. And also you'll see me on the pod, Park Lane Pod, on Twitter, on YouTube. I'm here pretty much every week. And yeah, love me or hate me, I'm still going to be here.
Love it. And Harry, again, Harry will be our new co-host for the foreseeable future. So I just want to welcome you to the channel. And how can everybody find you?
Yeah, you can find me on all socials, but you see my Twitter handles down there.
Not quite got that yet.
Yeah. Mainly active on Twitter, especially with Scarfy Spurs Talk. Tried to promote it. You also see a lot of tweets from me on my personal account, usually winding up rival fans. And mainly, as I said, promoting Scarfy Spurs Talk. So you see me there, Harry Scarf 22 and Scarfy Spurs Talk. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast as well.
Perfect. And if you want to follow me, you can follow me, Luke_Park Lane on social media. Just want to once again thank everybody for tuning in. Let's have a good week, and we'll be back as we are every Saturday morning, 11 a.m. So whatever you're doing, whether you're on your way to games, whether you're sat at home having a coffee, or whether you're lying in bed, tune in, get involved. We welcome everybody on this channel. And if you are interested in podcasting or YouTube at all, we're not afraid to bring on new faces and, have you on the channel. So if you are interested, do get in touch with us. Our DMs are open, and all social media, it's at Park Lane Pod. If you like audio, you can listen to us at Park Lane Podcast on all podcasting platforms. And if you like to watch us on YouTube, then it's at Park Lane Podcast on YouTube. But once again, thank you all very, very much for tuning in. See you next week. Let's hope we're celebrating a North London derby win, and we'll be back. But thank you all very much, and see you next time. Come on, you Spurs.